I watched Victor Hale deliver the news like he was announcing quarterly growth, not ending someone's career. "We're restructuring the logistics division," he said, that polished executive smile never leaving his face. "We've identified someone who can modernize operations for significantly less. My name is Skylar James. I'm 48 years old, and I had just given 11 years of my life to Redwood Automotive Systems." Victor leaned back like this was a routine upgrade. "Digital transformation," he added, as if that explained everything. 11 years building a distribution network that moved over $200 million in parts across 5 states. 11 years turning chaos into precision. And now, according to him, I was outdated. He slid a folder across the table. "Your replacement starts Monday, today. You'll document your processes." I didn't argue. I just looked at him and realized he had no idea what he'd just broken. Before we go any further, take a moment to subscribe, but only if you believe you deserve to be respected. And tell me, where are you listening from right now? And what's the temperature there, just so you know? This is a fictional story, with some elements enhanced using AI to make it more vivid and emotionally engaging. Now, let me take you back and show you how everything really happened. The first time I walked into Redwood Automotive Systems 11 years ago, the warehouse felt like controlled chaos on the edge of collapse. Pallets stacked without logic, mislabeled inventory, suppliers calling every hour asking where their shipments were. No one had a clear answer. The previous manager lasted 5 months before walking out mid-shift. I stayed, back then. I wasn't thinking about recognition or titles. I just needed stability. My husband, Daniel, was trying to grow his small construction business, and our daughter was about to start high school. We needed something steady, something reliable. So I learned everything, every supplier schedule, every fragile component that couldn't sit in heat too long, every seasonal pattern that could quietly destroy margins if you didn't adjust in time. I memorized how parts moved, not just where they were stored. I built tracking systems that didn't just log data, but predicted problems before they happened. It took nearly 3 years before things finally felt quiet, not silent, but smooth. Trucks arrived on time, inventory rotated without waste. Suppliers stopped complaining and started trusting us again. People called it efficient. Victor called it streamlined. But it wasn't simple. It was 11 years of decisions layered on top of each other. Hundreds of small adjustments no one noticed because they prevented problems before they existed. It only looked easy because I had already absorbed the complexity. Victor never asked about any of that. To him, what I built wasn't experience. It was just a number on a payroll sheet that could be reduced. I went back to my office and closed the door quietly, like I didn't want to disturb something that was already over. The room looked the same as it had that morning. Same desk, same shelves, same folders stacked with years of work. But it didn't feel like mine anymore. I opened my laptop and started typing. Supplier contacts, delivery windows, which vendors needed 3 weeks of lead time for specialized components, which ones always ran late and required buffer inventory, storage rules for temperature-sensitive parts, handling procedures for heavy assemblies that couldn't be moved without the right equipment. I tried to translate instinct into instructions. 6 pages in, I stopped. There were things I couldn't explain. Not clearly. Not in a way someone new could follow without standing where I had stood. Making the same mistakes. Learning the same lessons. You couldn't document judgment. You couldn't summarize 11 years into bullet points. Still, I kept going. Around mid-afternoon, Victor passed by my office. He didn't come in, just paused at the doorway like he was checking on a routine task. "How's the documentation coming along?" he asked. "It's coming," I said. He nodded once and walked away. No one else said anything. No goodbye. No acknowledgement. Just the normal sounds of the warehouse continuing outside. Forklifts moving, radios crackling, trucks backing into loading bays. Everything working exactly the way it was supposed to, because I had made it that way. By late afternoon, I stopped writing. I packed slowly, a coffee mug from an old team event, a jacket I used during winter inventory checks, a few photos of my family, Small things, easy to carry. 11 years reduced to a cardboard box. When I turned off the light and closed the door behind me, nothing in that building seemed to notice I was gone. That evening, I sat in my car for a few minutes before going inside. The house was lit the way it always was at that hour. Warm light spilling through the windows, steady and familiar. For a moment, I just watched it, like I was trying to hold on to something before it shifted. When I stepped into the kitchen, Daniel was at the counter reviewing project notes, his glasses low on his nose. He looked up, smiled automatically, then paused when he saw my face. "What happened?" he asked. I set the box down on the table. Our daughter, Emily, walked in from the hallway, earbuds still in, phone in her hand. She stopped when she saw both of us standing there. "I got fired today," I said. No build-up, no soft version, just the truth. The room went quiet. Daniel straightened slowly, like he needed a second to process what he'd heard. Emily pulled out her earbuds without saying anything, her expression shifting from confusion to something more serious. Why, Daniel asked. "My boss thinks I can be replaced with someone cheaper," I said. "He called it modernization." Emily frowned. "But you built everything there." "I know." Daniel ran a hand through his hair. Already thinking ahead, I could see it in his eyes. The numbers, the timelines, the pressure. Did they give you severance? "No, that doesn't sound right. It probably isn't," I said, but it happened anyway. Emily leaned against the counter, arms crossed. "So what now? We figure it out," I said, keeping my voice steady. "We've handled worse." Daniel nodded. But I could feel the tension in the room, the shift from routine to uncertainty, mortgage payments, school expenses, daily life. It all suddenly felt heavier. That night, neither of us slept much. I lay there staring at the ceiling, listening to the quiet of the house, knowing that by morning, everything would start moving whether I was ready or not. The next morning, I kept thinking about one person I hadn't spoken to yet. Ethan Cole. He was the regional VP of operations, someone 2 levels above Victor. We didn't work together daily, but over the past several years, we had built a quiet understanding. It started after a supplier tried to overcharge us during a production crisis, while everyone else was ready to accept it. I found an alternative solution in a few hours and saved the company a significant amount of money. Ethan noticed. After that, he made a point to check in from time to time. We had a lunch scheduled that afternoon. I almost canceled. It felt awkward showing up after being fired, like I no longer belonged in that world. But something told me to go anyway. Not for the job. Not for help, just to close the loop properly. I got in my car and drove the familiar route, the same one I had taken dozens of times before. Traffic moved as usual. People went about their day. Nothing around me had changed, even though everything had. As I pulled into the parking lot, my phone started ringing. Ethan. I let it ring once. Then again. On the third call, I answered. "Where are you?" His voice was sharper than I'd ever heard it. "I'm at the restaurant. We were supposed to meet." "Meeting," he said, almost cutting me off. "Skylar, we have the quarterly logistics review in less than 30 minutes. Victor keeps saying you're unavailable." "What's going on?" I paused. "I'm not unavailable," I said quietly. "I was fired yesterday." There was silence on the other end. Then, slower this time, more controlled, "He did what Victor terminated me, said he found someone cheaper." Another pause, heavier than the first. "I'm looking at the meeting agenda right now," Ethan said. "You're listed as the lead presenter for every major report. I know. Stay near your phone," he said. Then he hung up. I sat there for a moment, still holding the phone, watching people walk past my car like it was just another normal afternoon. Nothing about the world around me reflected what had just happened. Then my phone buzzed again. A message from Ethan. "Send me Victor's direct line." I sent it without hesitation. After that, there was nothing to do but wait. Minutes stretched longer than they should have. I tried not to imagine the conversation happening on the other end. Ethan calling Victor, asking questions Victor couldn't answer. Realizing, piece by piece, what had just been set in motion. About 20 minutes later, my phone rang again. Unknown number. Hello, hi. This is Karen from Human Resources. I'm calling to confirm some details regarding a termination processed under your employee ID today. Yes, I said. Did you meet with Victor Hale yesterday morning? I did. And he informed you that your employment was terminated effective immediately. Yes. Were you provided with any severance documentation or formal exit procedures? No. I was told to pack my things and document my processes. There was a pause, followed by the sound of typing. Did he mention any performance concerns or disciplinary issues? No. He said they found someone cheaper, more typing, longer this time. I see, she said finally. Thank you for your time. Someone will be in touch shortly. The call ended. I stared at the screen for a few seconds, feeling something shift. Not relief. Not exactly. But something had changed. 2 hours later, Victor called. I let it ring once before answering. Skylar. His voice sounded different, tighter, controlled, but strained. There's been a misunderstanding. We need you to come back, immediately. I said nothing. There was an issue with how your termination was processed. He continued. It wasn't properly authorized. We need to correct this. You can return on Monday. Your replacement, I asked. That situation has changed. Changed? Yesterday. I was replaceable. Today. I was suddenly necessary. We value your expertise, he added quickly. You're critical to operations. Critical. The word sounded unfamiliar coming from him. I leaned back in my seat, letting the silence stretch just long enough for him to feel it. I'll think about it, I said. And then I ended the call. That weekend. I told Daniel everything. About Ethan's call. About HR suddenly getting involved. About Victor's voice shifting from confident to careful in less than a day. I even told him about the word that stayed with me. Critical. Daniel listened without interrupting, just nodding slowly as he put the pieces together. So, are you going back? He asked. I shook my head before he even finished the question. No. He studied me for a moment, like he wanted to be sure I wasn't reacting emotionally. They might offer more money, he said. Better position, stability, I know, and we could use that right now. I know, I repeated. The truth was, it would have been easier to go back, walk into the same office, pick up where I left off, accept whatever terms they offered, and pretend none of this had happened. But something had shifted. I can't work for someone who decided I didn't matter, I said. Not after 11 years. Daniel exhaled quietly, then nodded. Then we figured something else out. We talked through everything, expenses, timelines, what we could adjust if needed. It wasn't comfortable, but it was manageable. Emily even offered to take on part-time work after school without being asked. That did something to me. It reminded me that walking away wasn't just about pride. It was about setting a standard, not just for me, but for the people watching. Monday morning came faster than expected. Victor called 3 times before noon. I didn't answer. Then the calls started coming from other numbers, different warehouses, different teams, voices I recognized immediately. Skylar. Do you know where the transmission units for the Midwest order are stored, Skylar? Which supplier handles emergency brake components, Skylar? The system shows one thing, but nothing is where it's supposed to be. I closed my eyes for a second. The system wasn't broken. It just didn't know how to function without the person who understood it. And for the first time since I left, I realized something clearly. They weren't calling because they missed me. They were calling because they needed me. The first call I answered was from a warehouse supervisor I'd worked with for years. Skylar. I'm sorry to bother you, but we have a shipment sitting here that was supposed to go out this morning. No one can find the routing instructions. I rubbed my forehead and pictured the layout in my mind. It's in the secondary queue. I said, check the flagged orders under priority rotation. It should be tagged for overnight dispatch. There was a pause. Then a breath of relief. Found it. Thank you. I hung up, but the phone rang again almost immediately. Another location, same confusion. Parts in the wrong zones, orders mismatched, suppliers waiting for confirmations that no one knew how to give. The system still existed, but without context. It was just data. By early afternoon, Victor called again. This time, I answered. Skylar, please, he said, skipping any pretense. Everything is falling apart. Nothing is where it's supposed to be. Suppliers are calling nonstop. We're missing deadlines. I didn't respond. The new hire quit this morning. He added quickly. Said the job wasn't what he was told. What did you tell him? I asked. That it was mostly data management, reporting, optimization dashboards. I let out a quiet breath. You made it look simple, he said. There it was again. Simple. It was never simple. I replied. You just never asked how it worked. There was silence on the line. Heavier this time. I'm asking now. He said. Come back. We'll adjust your salary, your role, whatever you need. I thought about it for a second. Not the offer itself, but what it represented. A reaction, not respect. A correction made under pressure, not understanding. No, I said, Skylar, we have a major review coming up. Corporate expects full operational reports. No one here knows how to prepare them. You had 11 years to learn, I said calmly. I ended the call before he could respond. Over the next few days, I kept getting updates from people still inside. Shipments delayed, inventory degrading in the wrong conditions, suppliers threatening to walk away. Nothing dramatic, just quiet, steady collapse by the second week. I stopped thinking of it as unemployment. It felt more like a transition I hadn't planned, but one I was starting to understand. I had 3 serious interviews lined up, one with a regional competitor who seemed more interested in cutting costs than building anything stable, one with a manufacturing firm expanding too fast for their own systems to keep up, and one with a company I hadn't heard much about before. Aurora Drive Systems, smaller operation, lean team, but growing fast. When I walked into their facility, I recognized the feeling immediately. Not chaos. Not exactly. But pressure without structure. Parts stored wherever there was space. Suppliers waiting too long for confirmations. Teams working hard, but without alignment. I had seen this before. Elena Ramirez, the CEO, met me in person and walked me through everything herself. No assistance, no filtered version, just the raw state of the operation. What would you change first? She asked. I looked around for a moment before answering. Nothing right away. I said, I'd spend time understanding why things are the way they are. If you move too fast in logistics, you don't fix problems, you hide them. She didn't interrupt, just nodded slowly. That's exactly what I needed to hear. She said, we talked for nearly an hour, not about buzzwords or dashboards, but about real constraints, supplier behavior, seasonal pressure, failure points most people ignored until they became expensive. For the first time since I left Redwood, I felt like I was being listened to, not evaluated, understood. 3 days later, Elena called. We'd like to offer you the Director of Logistics role. She said, higher base than your previous position, and equity. We want you to build this the right way. I thanked her and asked for the weekend, not because I needed it, but because I wanted to be sure I was choosing something, not just escaping something. Daniel didn't hesitate. This feels right, he said. Emily smiled in that quiet way that told me she already knew my answer. Monday morning, I called Elena back. I'm in. Good, she said. We've been waiting for you. When the call ended, I sat there for a moment, not relieved, grounded, like I had finally stepped into a place where experience wasn't questioned. It was trusted. The first day at Aurora felt different from the moment I walked in. Elena was waiting in the lobby herself. No rushed greeting, no handing me off to someone else. She walked me through every department, introduced me to every team member, and took the time to explain not just what they did, but where they were struggling, "What do you need from me?" she asked, before I even sat down. "Time," I said. "Time to understand everything before changing anything." She nodded without hesitation. "You have it. That was the difference. Not pressure, not performance theater, just trust." I spent the first few weeks learning every supplier, every workflow, every point where things slowed down or broke under pressure. I didn't rush to fix anything. I mapped it first, the same way I had done 11 years ago. And slowly, things started to shift. Not dramatically, not all at once, but steadily. Orders became more predictable. Storage began to make sense. Suppliers responded faster because they were finally being handled correctly. Around that time, I started hearing things about Redwood. At first, it came from former colleagues, then from suppliers I used to work with. Delays, mistakes, confusion. Victor had taken over operations himself. No transition. No understanding, just responsibility he wasn't prepared for. And the system didn't fail loudly. It unraveled quietly. Shipments missed. Contracts strained. Suppliers losing patience. Then the calls started coming in. Not from Redwood directly, but from the same suppliers who once trusted me. "Are you building something new over there?" one of them asked. "We are," I said. "Good," he replied. "Because we're looking for stability again. Within a few months." Several of them shifted part of their business to Aurora. Not because I asked, because they chose to. One evening, as I sat in my office reviewing reports that actually made sense, I thought about everything that had happened. Victor didn't lose control the day he fired me. He lost it the moment he believed I was replaceable, looking back. I didn't lose anything the day I was fired. I lost something much earlier the moment I accepted being undervalued and stayed quiet about it. What I learned is simple, but it took me 11 years to truly understand. If you don't recognize your own worth, someone else will define it for you, and they will almost always define it lower. Walking away wasn't easy. I had responsibilities, bills, a family depending on me. Going back would have been safer, but I chose something else. I chose not to return to a place where I was seen as replaceable. Even when they offered more money, I chose respect over comfort, and that decision changed everything. So I want to ask you, if you were in my position, would you do the same if you would walk away and choose your self-worth? Write yes in the comments so I know I made the right decision. If you would stay and take the safer path, write no. And if you're still thinking about it, write time. I'd really like to hear your perspective. And if this story meant something to you, if it reminded you of your own value, consider subscribing, liking, and sharing this video, because your action might help someone else realize they deserve better too. This story was fully created and produced by our team. We do not copy or borrow content from any other channel. Thank you for staying with us and listening until the end.